Allie, I am so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us for an Impact Masterclass.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I've had a couple reschedules, so thanks for bearing with me. And I'm excited to regroup. I know this time last year, First Home IQ was really starting out and we were having really cool conversations. So it's great to see how far it's come.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about where we were a year ago. We hadn't even started the ambassador program yet. And yeah, we're just kind of developing some of the content, thinking about yeah, how we were going to bring that education. So it's come a long way thanks to a lot of thanks to yourself and a lot of the people on this call. So we are and now doing these master classes, the idea is that we are bringing experts in from different areas of impact, whether that be, teach next month. I think we'll do something about teaching a class, how to do a homebuyer workshop. This month, of course, we're talking about social media. So the goal of this is just to be, really conversational and hear from your perspective. What are some of the tips and strategies for people to make the most impact on social media? But I'd love for us to start with you just talking a little bit about your background leading up to this, like what has been a little bit of your journey on why you believe social media has become such a powerful tool in the mortgage industry, and what has it been like moving from being the Gen Z guru, which you still are, to working in a lender and actually working with loan officers. So let's start with, why are you passionate about social media and reaching Gen Z?
For sure. So I don't know if anyone on this call has ever seen me speak before, but really I got thrown into the industry June of 2022 and the market was kind of shifting and I realized having two parents that had been in mortgage lending my whole life, it was about to be pretty tough over the next few months. And while I'm still getting my bearings as, a 23-year-old in the mortgage industry trying to learn all the amazing acronyms and ins and outs of loans, I really wanted to deliver some value to the people that I was meeting and were helping teach me the industry. And with that, I realized there was a big gap between the people in my life that were thinking about, renting or buying a home and just the way that they were engaging with the home buying process or questions I would ask them was so different than the way that I was talking to mortgage lenders and executives and loan officers that were trying to speculate about my generation. And so I really set out to bridge the gap, talk about some differences, and better help our industry reach these first time or potential first time home buyers. And through that, I think that one of the big distinctions was really the way that we rely on social media for mainstream news. Where I think I remember coming home from the bus stop in the fifth and sixth grade, and my dad would have on, one of the mainstream news channels, and that's how he was consuming what's going on in the world, what's going on in the economy. Versus today, I come home for the holidays. My brother has YouTube on the TV and he's listening to his favorite financial, podcast or economic update, and he does it every day at night. Just the way that we're consuming data and economic, outlooks and opinions, it's coming from a different source. And that's really where I think social media is going to be a great way to be building relationships, educating, and really further bridging that gap for that next generation home buyer.
It's so interesting how much things are changing all of the time too. I mean, with social media and
Yes.
media, but especially social media, it's just constantly kind of an evolving force. I'd love to know, how has it changed for you over the past few years? What do you feel like is really is something that you're noticing change in over the past few years?
This is a really good question because literally one of my best friends from Florida State, she texted me last night and she's trying to become like a TikTok influencer, which is very different than what I think the mortgage industry should be doing. I think that TikTok influencers, if you're doing that and it's based on your lifestyle, it's very different than how you would do it as a mortgage lender. But it's top of mind because the algorithms are always changing on these platforms. And so when I first hopped into the industry in 2022, the way to, kind of blow up on social media was the way that you were posting, what you were posting about, and it was a lot easier to get a lot of traction. And over the past 2 to 3 years, it's gotten a little different. It's like the way that the platforms are supporting influencers or content creators, it's shifting. And so I think one thing to make note of is today, August 14th, 2024 is going to be so different than August 14th, 2025, the way that you're looking at your social media strategy, because these platforms update and there's new regulations and there's new things that are coming into play. So when I look at also my personal journey jumping in 2022, I was on the vendor side, and I was just trying to meet any C-level executives, talk to them about my compliance software, and through that, I really developed a passion for social media and monitoring social media, tracking different like analytics. And that led me to my newest role here at Guild. I've been here since April 15th. So a few months in role, but it's been so incredible to be able to work one-on-one with loan officers, hear their feedback. And I was telling you before we hopped on, like I just have a new empathy for loan officers because being comfortable on social media is not easy. And I feel like I jumped in, I'm like, oh, just post this, because it's so second nature to me. But coming to the lender side, I've been like, oh my gosh, like there is a mental impediment, but also there's like a lot of intricacies that come with like it's so natural to me to just pick up my phone and hop on video or talk without a script. And there's just such a admiration that I have for people who are willing to take the jump and start their social media journey because in a year from now it's going to look way different than it does today.
Yeah, that's what I would love for you to expand a little bit on what it's been like working with loan officers directly. I think it's really interesting thinking about how much things have changed when it comes to not just social media, but even the way we use phones and I mean, everything has changed so dramatically. And it is a lot of this is really ingrained in us. So I have realized how different I am as a millennial than you as a Gen Z. Our generations do make a really big difference in just because of how we've grown up around technology, I think being one of the biggest factors there. So yeah, it sounds like you've built a lot of empathy, noticed some things that are second nature for you and versus a lot of loan officers. What are some of the things that you've learned in working with loan officers that have like helped people be able to post more on social media or be more effective on social media?
So I had a conversation with a loan officer a few weeks ago, and he was telling me, he's paying like $400 a month for someone to do his social media. And me hearing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just my aspiration or like my ask for loan officers is try to make it fun. Like don't make it a check the box. Make it a oh my gosh, I get to do this. Like I am so excited to see what my network's doing. It is so much more than set it and forget it. A lot of people try to just automate the process and not think about it. I had a call this morning with Adam O'Daniel, who's our CMO here at Guild, and I was like, it's so hard for me to understand like that set it and forget it mentality because genuinely like I am so excited to check my phone on my lunch break. Like I'm gonna sit on my phone, scroll through Instagram, go through Facebook, TikTok, check all my social media platforms, and then go back to work. It's something I look forward to. So one of the biggest like things that I would say and like my when I look at social media, loan officers should not put it as a set it and forget it. I have to do social media. It should be something that you're looking at and you're like, oh my gosh, let's go see what that prospective first time home buyer that followed me the other day. Like we followed each other. Let's see what's going on in the community. Maybe I could share with her like little ways to be engaging with your network that aren't as second nature as like an email or a phone call. Does that
That's
make sense?
Yeah, it's funny. I think that I mean, I fall into that so much. I dread posting on social media. I don't want to do it. It feels like an absolute chore when I think about, what are the things that I enjoy doing in my life and my career. Social media is at the bottom of the list, and
So
but
crazy.
when I've started posting more on LinkedIn, more like, longer things that I am thinking about and I've had really cool conversations from them. And so that is something that has been helping me switch my mindset around it is like, this allows me to connect with people. I've had really cool conversations from some of the posts that I've had because it's been personal. I'm like sharing something more from my heart on LinkedIn. It feels more genuine. And so I'm trying to have that be what fuels and shifts my mindset a little bit. Like social media is about connecting, and
100%.
yeah,
And
so that's
I think the loan officer that I spoke with that was paying like $400 a month for automation, my biggest advice for him was, okay, you can do that for the next month, but also set 10 minutes on your calendar where you get to sit on your phone. You genuinely, I know for top producers, it's like, oh my gosh, that's such a time warp, like, oh, social media. But sitting on your phone and thinking about what other people are posting, people that you admire and that you like the way that they think, and trying to emulate that through the mortgage lens. Like, okay, I like, I don't know what influencers are out there, but like, for instance, I'm trying to think of someone that would be relatable, like the Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary. Maybe you follow him and see what he's posting and figure out how you could recreate that in the mortgage perspective and just ways to be connecting and sharing your thoughts so that people want to message you. You're not just posting. It's creating that connection that you're talking about. And so any loan officers or people on the call that are like, okay, that's great. What do you recommend? I would say setting an Outlook time block. If it's 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes. If it's 30 minutes, great. Really figuring out what you like on social media and ways that you can reproduce it, but also like commenting, liking. If your daughter's best friend is posting at her university, commenting, oh my gosh, so excited for you, like can't wait to see this journey for you. Like little engagement things will slowly start to become second nature. And from a business perspective, it won't be as intimidating.
That's so good. Okay, so I think we're moving into that's a good segue into talking about what content actually connects and how to be more engaging. But before we do that, I do want to ask the audience if you would type in the chat why you're here. Like, what do you hope to learn from Ali? What are your challenges around social media? Just share with us some of your thoughts so that whenever we are coming through this time, we're hearing from you as well. And of course, many of you are going to be watching this after the fact. Would also love for you guys to post in the comments about what you were hoping to learn, and we will continue to develop content and also pull some of the micro content from this conversation to support you guys. Um, so let's start with just talking about what platform is going to be. Like, let's say someone is just starting out or they're overwhelmed on social media. Where do you tell people to start? What's going to give someone the most impact in terms of like the platform?
So I would think about like where your network is today and focusing on age groups and who your ideal age group would be because they are engaging across multiple different platforms. I'd say that like Gen X is probably on Facebook the most. That millennial is going to be on Facebook, Instagram, and then that Gen Z is going to be like that Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, like all in. They probably are spending 4 hours a day on social media. So figuring out where you want to be, where is going to be most beneficial to spend your time based on like what your expertise is, who you're trying to serve, and then really developing a consistent like posting schedule that you can commit to. And so I've seen some comments about like where to find relevant content. I would say as you're looking at your strategy and trying to figure out where you want to be posting, use resources. Like I know at Guild we have Guild GPT, which is like it's like an AI, it's like a chat GPT version, but it's also built for like our Guild employees, and that's around like the mortgage industry and like different, parts of the loan process. But then we also have Copilot, which is chat GPT like recreated for our company. And so using those AI resources, whether it's chat GPT or whatever your company is like supporting, to ask it questions every Monday. If you have a social media block, hey, what should I be posting about this week? What's going on in the real estate world? What is top of mind for first-time home buyers today in August 2024? And taking some of that content and then just being like, great, I'm gonna hop on video Wednesday. When I'm in my car, I'm gonna get to my meeting 15 minutes early, hop on video and post it. And then using resources like your Outlook calendar or reminders on your phone so that you don't forget the strategy that you're putting in place and hold yourself accountable. If after a month you're like, dang, like I just cannot commit to 3 posts a week, that's fine. Maybe make it two posts. Maybe it's Monday and Friday. But really staying consistent and utilizing the automation that we do have as part of our, day-to-day resources and using that to create creative ideas and timely content.
That's so good. And just as a quick side note, if you are an ambassador, we just launched a marketing resources channel. Katie's gonna die that I'm showing this because we don't have the graphics in here yet. But if you click on social media, this will give you different pieces of content. The social media content channel has all of our bank and library of social content with captions. And what I think is important about all of this is that regardless of what you're using, or like, some of the other ones like video scripts, we have, this is available to anybody who is not an ambassador, but we have a great library of video content. But using those as ideas, I think, has been really helpful for creating your own content, because I don't think, I mean, I want people to share as much educational content as possible, but and Ali, would love for you to respond to this. Like, what's going to be effective is when you make it your own. Like, you take an idea and you create a video out of it, or you are speaking to it. Would you agree with that? And also, what kinds of content is really effective that you've seen loan officers doing, especially with a younger audience?
100% I would agree with that. And I would also say, like, there's a perfect mix of personal and professional. And if you're only leading with professional and education, chances are you're not reaching that audience and that ideal person who's going to follow you because they like you as a person. And so I would say, as you're looking at your strategy and referencing the scripts and resources, that's great, but that should probably be one to two-thirds of what you're posting. That other big chunk should be who you are. And the loan officers that I think are finding the most success on social media are the ones that are open to being vulnerable. And that is so hard. I am not saying it's easy. I've learned talking to loan officers here at Guild that it is such a mental impediment. And being a professional, you've been taught, don't bring anything personal to the workplace. But for instance, like, we're going back to school this week. If you had a nightmare of a story like, oh my gosh, my kid forgot his shoes, like, that's something that's really relatable. It's not to overshare. And it's great content that if someone who could relate to it, they'd be like, oh my gosh, like, follow. That's really where you're going to see the engagement, is on the personal side. And then through that, people who like you, they're like, oh, Allie is a working mom. She drops her kid off at 8 a.m. too. They're going to want to keep up with your content because of who you are. And then they'll be like, oh, she also does mortgages. Oh, I'm looking to buy in this area. I can't wait to reach out to her. Maybe she'll be able to help me. It's like they follow you because they like you, and then they also choose to work with you because they like you.
So how do you strike that balance between personal and professional? Like, how do you, while being strategic, like, what are you choosing to share, and how do you guide loan officers through being vulnerable in that way?
And that is something that, again, I touched on earlier. I have such a new empathy because for me, it is very second nature. Growing up with social media, Facebook, I wasn't there for MySpace, but there were little things where, like, it was easy to just hop online and be like, this is what I'm feeling. And so it slowly evolved, and some people have shut that part of them out. But a lot of that Gen Z consumer is more eager to be vulnerable digitally than probably in person. And that is something that I think is hard for people who have not grown up on social media. So I would say looking at, like, little parts of your life that you can bring in, and then maybe also referencing people that you follow that do a good job at it and be like, oh, that was a great, that I related to that. I want to do more of that type of content. I always say the 60/30/10 principle is like the thing that I lead with for coaching on social media. 60% mortgage. Someone should click on your account, know that you're a mortgage lender, see in your bio what you do, but then your stories on Instagram or whatever platform you're on should be reflective of you day to day. Like, for instance, I got this mug and it has a cardinal on it. You could post your mug and be like, getting after it on a Wednesday, what's your favorite go-to coffee? Like, little things that aren't too intrusive or seen into your life, but it's a good way to, like, be building connection and conversation with anyone that follows you.
That's so good. So I want to pause here and see what kinds of questions or comments we're having from the audience that we can answer directly. One question that I thought would be interesting, and I'm not sure if you have an answer to this, but for editing, a lot of people get really stuck on
Mm.
editing content and it can take them down a huge rabbit hole. And so this is a great point by Rich Hayden. How do you determine or do you have any editing tools that you recommend people use when editing video in particular, but content, I guess, in general?
So like software, yes.
Yeah.
I would recommend, I do CapCut and I think there's like a monthly fee that I pay, but it's like $2. But I really like CapCut because you can add, you can one, they have a section where you can see what's trending. So if there's like a GIF or like the Olympics and like little things where you can pull ideas from, they have a section on the app that is trending, audio trending, memes trending, different things. But then also, if anyone is looking for like the auto caption that like reads along with you, CapCut has that. And then it's also really easy to kind of clip parts of the video that is hard. Additionally, I would say this sounds, I know people who aren't as familiar with TikTok are going to hate on this, but I use TikTok a lot because it has a lot of like easy functionality for me because you hop on video, it looks great, you clip it, you save it, and then you repurpose it on other platforms. But CapCut does very, very similar functionality. It's a little bit more advanced when it comes to the like trending. You can automatically put that into your videos. But I would say CapCut, and then I know you just pulled up Canva a minute ago. That is great for just like one-offs. Like if you want to put your picture on a photo and like make an announcement, something about, what's going on in the market today, or if you want to have like a thumbnail. This is something that I realized is not as, I've been doing this thing called the Market Minute at Guild, where every Friday I post what's going on in the market. Takes a lot of like heavy lifting from secondary capital markets and like compliance to get it up every Friday. But we're providing it to our loan officers, and I'm like, oh, here's the thumbnail. And I don't think a lot of people realize a thumbnail is like what shows up on the Instagram grid so that when your followers click on it, they can see what the video is talking about. And that is huge, especially with that Gen Z homebuyer who's doing research. They're gonna see what's expected in the video. Oh, I've been wondering, what's expected out of HOA costs, what's reasonable or what is closing costs. You click on the video and it runs through it. So you don't always need like an intro. It could always just be a thumbnail on your profile, and that's easy for consumers to be like, oh, that's a topic I need to learn about.
That's so
Sorry,
good.
that went down such a rabbit hole, but
No,
I would say Canva, CapCut, and then TikTok, I use it for just my personal editing.
yeah, no, those are great rabbit holes. Katie, I was just thinking we create try to make it easy for people to share educational content. And so we should make thumbnails for people to be able to, they can create their videos, but then have the thumbnail. I know I tried to do this once and it took me so long. And I was like, yeah, the rabbit hole can really take you off course for the day if you don't have something that's just like ready to go, but Canva makes it so easy to edit stuff. And if you have a template that you can use, it can just be your go-to thing. And I did try I'm a consumer of TikTok, but posting content. I don't know if you remember this. You told me that recommendation of like you record stuff on TikTok just to use the editing tools. And I tried doing that and like I was like it showed up a bunch of stuff on my head. Like it was like I did not know how to
It
use
had
it.
filters.
Yeah, there were filters in there and I couldn't stop it. And it was just it's such a funny thing. So definitely find what works for you. For me, that was not going to be my angle that although I could learn. I know, all of these things are going to take time. And initially they are going to take that investment. But just like with anything, once you make that investment and you repeat it over and over, it'll become really fast and second nature. So
Absolutely.
um with the video content, do you ever use or recommend a teleprompter or anything
I
to
saw that
remember?
question.
Yeah.
So something about the Market Minute with compliance, like we've been doing this like for the past few Fridays, it has to be word for word. Because even like one wrong word could be misleading for a consumer. So like my background in Active Comply, I've definitely am has impacted my time here at Guild because I'm like super micro managing each of the scripts. And so I would say I have, and I've never used a teleprompter in the past because I'm always like, oh, show up who you are, be natural. Compliance would hate that answer. So it has to be word for word every week. And I jump on, I use a teleprompter called BigVu, BIGVU. They have an upgraded version that's great. And for those people that feel like when they're using a teleprompter, they look like they're reading, the app actually has an upgraded feature. I don't use it because I think, I don't know. I don't think you can tell I'm reading, but I don't know. It'll fix your eyes though to make it look like you're not reading. So if that's something that like you're using the free version and you're like, dang, like I this doesn't look like very genuine. Maybe try the upgraded version for a month or the free trial and see if it actually helps you with nailing down some of the scripts.
Well, that's super helpful. So I'd love to talk about transitioning more towards how you generate leads through social media. And this might not be something that, this is kind of a totally different game versus the engagement piece. But I'd love, I guess, for you to start by talking about the difference between building a brand on social media and creating engaging content versus the process of like actually generating leads from social media.
For sure. So I think this is something that I get asked a lot, and there is no direct return on investment, in my opinion. Like, I can never be like, oh, if you post 5 times a week, you're gonna 100% get 5 new leads this month. I can't give you a perfect answer, but I would say I have met some loan officers that use social media. Again, genuinely, you enjoy doing it, you like showing up, followers can see that. Once you look and feel approachable across social media, all of a sudden you start getting DMs. And I would say going back to that 60-30-10 principle, I don't think I touched upon it enough, but 60% mortgage, 30% Ali Cardi, whoever you are, 10% call to action. And that call to action is going to be huge. So when you're looking at your social media presence, some of the biggest influencers don't get messaged because they don't tell their followers, hey, reach out to me if this is something that you're dealing with. Oh, if you are curious to learn more about like how we at Guild or wherever you're at are serving our clients in your area, click the link in the bio. And your link in your bio should always lead the consumer to something that could take them down like different rabbit holes. So make it be very inviting, but also like not just a meeting link. Because if I'm 22, 23, wanting to learn more about you and like how to learn about the mortgage process, I don't want to hop on Zoom right away. I think that's one thing that as I've looked at like my friend group, getting them to those first time homebuyer seminars is like a slow nurture. It takes a few different like touches to really build trust and allow them to feel like they could talk to you about something like that. So making sure that your link in bio, you're like, oh, click the link in my bio to learn more. Make sure your information's there, have a calendar link available. But I would say that's going to lead to the most leads. I would also say looking at your story engagement. So I always talk about Instagram stories, huge for like, for instance, my friends and I was asking them about this. Sometimes I don't have time to scroll through Instagram, but if you open your phone in between meetings, there's like 10 or 12 stories that you can click through. And that's really where a lot of consumers are spending their time. So if you have maybe like a poll on there, like iced coffee, hot coffee, chances are someone who has an opinion is going to answer it. And even if they don't, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, next. You can see who's viewing your things that way. And then slowly, if you do have a CRM, you could be like, oh, Allie likes iced coffee, or oh, Allie, da 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 da. And you can start making notes in your CRM based on their social media engagement. And then you can also see maybe like if someone's ghosting you. You could have a slow, like, for instance, I always use this example. Let's say someone's moving to Nashville. I'm a loan officer here. They have ghosted me on calls, emails, text, no response. We follow each other on social media though, and I saw that there is a farmer's market every Saturday. Okay, I'm gonna take this post that Nashville, Tennessee, we have an Instagram. I can guarantee you most cities, if you live in them or local communities, there is some type of Instagram that you could take some of their posts and direct message them to any prospective home buyers that may have gone ghost and be like, hey, I saw this and thought of you, would love to reconnect. And if not, just thought that you would love to know that there's a farmer's market. I know that's something that you care about. Or reference your conversation with them And then if there's any social media content out there that makes you think of them, you could direct message, oh, this reminded me of when we talked last month. Hope you're doing well. Like just a small, not salesy, small, nurturing, like warm touch. And it could like show them, oh, they remember our conversation without blowing me up on email or phone.
That's so good. So, this reminds me that a lot of our ambassadors have really struggled with getting people to show up at events. And I hear this all the
Mhm.
time from loan officers. And I think they are going from here's social media content and the direct call to action is join this event. And I think it's difficult for people to make that leap. So what do you recommend, or what have you seen really effective on social media to get people to come to events? Or is there an in between? Like, what does that nurturing process look like?
This is like an unsolved mystery for me still, I'm gonna be honest, because I survey my friends and I'm like, what would make y'all want to show up? Like even I've talked, I know some local lenders before I came to Guild that were like, oh, like I'm doing this happy hour. And I was like, hey, do y'all want to go? Like they have a free drink ticket, like it's on Friday, let's go. And they're like, I don't want to talk about like that makes me nervous. I don't know what to talk about with those people. And I'm like, okay, so it is like a social thing. And unfortunately, I think when we're looking at that individual who most likely works from home or has been accustomed to like a digital virtual lifestyle, it's really hard to get those people to show up and want to talk about something as intimate and overwhelming or, intimidating as the mortgage process. So I would say, as you're looking, this is like as a consumer, as someone who is a Gen Z, like I would say having multiple different opportunities, very casual, like making sure they don't seem like, oh, seminar or oh, this, like make it a happy hour or hey, let's talk about, what it means to refinance or little things that are just like easy taglines that you can get them out of their comfort, like comfort of their home to go attend. Because even like I was surprised, I was like, y'all, they're gonna give us a free drink ticket, like we're gonna go have fun. They're like too intimidating. So I think that there is like a little bit of a gap. And I think if that is virtual, I don't know if they're probably not gonna come off camera. They may listen to you, but it's gonna be a slow nurture. I would say my best bet is maybe having a few events a month, making them very casual, but then also really using social media to help them understand you as a person. So that when they show up, they're not like, oh my gosh, Kristen, like they don't know what to expect out of your personality. And they know that you are genuinely trying to help them, not overwhelm them with mortgage terminology.
Yeah, that's so good. So, what do you think about like a virtual Q&A? Like if they have been sharing content and talking through things, would a virtual or a virtual, I don't know, if you say seminar or workshop, that's going to feel like I'm pushing something on you. Is that right?
I don't know. I mean, I think the word seminar for me, I just picture a big conference center. And
Mhm.
so, no matter where you host it, if it's advertised that way, it may come across as intimidating. But I would say, like, a good way to market it would be like, especially if it's virtual, like conversation about buying your first home. Like
Mhm.
those types of things, I'm like, oh yeah, wait, I don't want to rent forever. I'm gonna just see what she has to say. And then slowly, if it is like educational enough and it's like still casual, it's like, oh, well, also here's some things to think about. If you're on a year timeline journey, here's some things that I'd be planning for. That's going to make that consumer or that prospective home buyer be able to want to come back and be like, oh, okay, it wasn't super intimidating. And now if they host something in person, I would know what to talk to them about, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's huge. Um, I think that some of the things that we've seen helpful in the event is to do the first home IQ quiz at the beginning, something that will
Mhm.
give people some language to be able to have a conversation and to, like you said before, not use the terminology. Like it's really intimidating for people to even know what questions to ask. But I think the same thing goes for any of your content. Like how are you communicating in a way that's going to help me feel like I would be safe having a conversation with you? And I think that's everything that you've been talking about. Um
And like timely content, for instance, like today I've been thinking about NAR. If I texted in my friend group chat right now, what's going on with NAR? they would have no idea. So if you're just hopping on social media, making a post with like, curious what's going on with the NAR settlement, join this Zoom call to find out. I know that's more targeted towards partners, but also consumers going to be like, what are they talking about? Like, what's an NAR? You know, and I know there's again, that is targeted towards partners, but how you show up on social media, if you're not saying National Association of Realtors, like that consumer is going to be like, what mortgage acronym do I not know now? So I would say like just being strategic and thinking through if you have someone in your network that is super not mortgage savvy. Like for instance, before I joined the industry, my mom would be like, "Does this make sense?" And I'd be like, "No." Just having an accountability partner at the beginning to be like, "Okay, that doesn't make any sense." If I was scrolling through Instagram, I'd be like, "What are they talking about?" So that would be just another like recommendation. You mentioned making sure your content shows up as approachable. Acronyms are huge.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, so I want to leave a little bit of time for questions, but I wanted to go ahead and close out our conversation with the question of if someone is, just starting out or they want to build out a longer strategy on social media, what would your advice be?
So if they're just starting out, let's say like I would say you need an Instagram account. Like that is a huge thing. If you just have Facebook or you just have YouTube, like you're not gonna show up in the Google algorithms at the top. Like that's just unless your name is super niche. But I would just say when you're looking at people who are doing their due diligence to research a perspective like loan officer, they're gonna check social media platforms, they're gonna Google you. And Instagram is a huge way to resonate your face with your name and the mortgage process. So I would say definitely create an Instagram. And then if you're starting from scratch, I would say your Instagram strategy should really be a lot more personable. And Facebook too, but like I would assume a lot of loan officers have a LinkedIn, and that's great for building relationships with partners or connecting with like colleagues or the Tennessee Mortgage Bankers Association. But LinkedIn is very separate than Instagram, Facebook. If you're comfortable on Facebook, maybe just spend like the next 2 months really like refining how you post on there and then replicating that on Instagram. I can tell you, just based on what I've learned, Instagram does take a while to ramp up, but you will get more likes at first on Instagram than probably Facebook if you're starting both from scratch. The way that the algorithms feed like hashtags and things like that, I would say making sure if you're talking about, refinance, hashtag refinance. If you're talking about first time home buyers, hashtag first time home buyers. The way that right now the algorithms work is they listen to what you're saying, what you're talking about, how you caption a photo, and then they'll deliver that to people who are researching that topic and it'll show up on a For You page. So really being intentional about what you're talking about. For instance, I always try to break it into like 5 different buckets. Mortgage, mortgage content, and this is if I was a loan officer, not Ali Cardi Gen Z person. It's very different, but I'd say like mortgage content needs to be one. But then like I would talk about my golden doodle. Oh, we're out for a walk. I'd talk about the coffee shop I tried this week. Oh, I would tag them. They're gonna share that with their network. I would talk about how I go to Orange Theory. And then maybe I always try to do like timely content. So like that would be my 5 buckets. I would do something like, oh, if it's the Olympics, maybe posting something about that one off. But keeping like who you are as a person. I love my dog Bowden. I love Florida State football. So like leaning into your different like niches, because that's what's gonna set you apart as a person, and you also do mortgages. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's super helpful. I think that gives everyone a really clear, next step of how to really think about creating their own content and building a presence on social media, and doing it in a way that really makes an impact and connects with people. So at this point, I would love to open it up to anybody here in the audience that's live. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to raise your hand or come off of mute and go ahead and ask Ali. Ali, have you ever done an Ask Ali thing?
No, that would be
The
cool.
alliteration sounds really good. Yeah.
Does sound great. I love that. I may steal it.
Great. Um,
Let me see the group chat. Um, oh, Rich, you got your hand up?
Yep,
Ask Ali anything. AAA. Oh yeah.
it's happening.
Go for it.
All right, so the question that I would have as it relates to either Facebook or Instagram, because I've been trying to dive into both, is your profile type. Should it be, I know so business page is one thing, right? Dead, just you got to have it because it's going to have all
Yeah,
your stuff and blah blah blah. But womp womp, right? But your personal page, should you list yourself as a creator in order to get insights and maybe some additional tools within either of those platforms, or how the setup, from what I understand, this is where my lack of knowledge comes in. The setup matters just in terms of your ability to then scale. Is that accurate?
for sure. And I would say Instagram, I have mine set up as a creator and like so I have a Ali Cardi like as a personal, and that's just because I've gotten like I've gotten endorsements through my personal account. So that's the only reason I have two separate ones. But then my mortgage one is really just to connect with mortgage people, educate, and talk about that Gen Z consumer. So it's two different audiences, but my mortgage account is definitely a business account. And I would say that is because you do get more analytics. And that is also for Facebook. I would say set them both as the same. And then you'll be able to pop in, see like what content is being sent to people the most. Like you can see, I think I posted something the other day and it got like 12 cents. Oh, great. That's something that someone actually cared about versus 0 cents. And so I would say setting your profile using like the meta functionality to really up level, make it a business account and not a business page that's different on Facebook than the account itself, like you said. So I would definitely recommend making it either creator, business, whichever one like fits when you read the description, but like mine is business.
Thank you. And that just a follow on to that, without going down some rabbit holes, somebody like, oh, buy my class and I'll teach you all this stuff. Is there any decent um, information provided by Meta or anybody else there where you can just figure this stuff out a little bit faster than trial and error as
The
far
issue
as
is it's
this
always
setup? And yeah,
changing.
well, right, it is always changing. Yeah.
And I would say Meta is like my biggest nightmare to get in contact with or anything like that. But I would say there is some great like just content creator. If you go on Instagram and you just like, or you could Google best content creators to follow on Instagram. They'll lead you to that, and I'd be happy to follow up with you after this call and send you over some people that I follow. I could send that to Kristen, and she could share that with the First Time IQ community. But I'll write your name down, or I'll send it to Kristen to make sure that we can get that out. But there's like 3 or 4 people that post timely content, and it's like kind of just the basics of like what you should be posting this month. Oh, here's how to post a story, things like that. But that's a great question.
Great resource. Thank you. We have a question on advertising. Do you have any thoughts on advertising on Facebook?
Paid ads. So this is something I've never really supported, but coming to Guild and I now run our corporate accounts, it actually like it does make a difference to some degree, I think from a corporate standpoint. But I think at the end of the day, again, if you're trying to work with people that want to work with you as a person, it's not going to come from how many times you promote a post about rates being low. It's going to come, they're going to follow you and want to message you and feel like they trust you because you're posting who you are as Ali Cardi. I like FSU. I love my golden doodle. I have iced coffee this morning and this is the flavor. This is what I ordered at Starbucks this morning. Like little things that make you you. That's what's going to drive that trust, that follow, that direct message. So I would say I would steer away from it until you're comfortable doing organic content. If it's still really uncomfortable, you could promote it, but at the end of the day, it's probably not gonna, like, you're probably gonna get ghosted if you're finding someone through a Facebook ad.
Awesome. Katie, we should do a follow-up with our playbook on resources like people to follow and then some of the resources that you've talked about, Ali. So if anybody has joined here today, you will be getting the playbook. If you're watching this after, reach out if you don't have access to that, and happy to share that with you since our registration situation got a little bit messed up, but definitely want to make sure everybody has access to those resources. So This has been so insightful. Allie, thank you so much for spending so much time with us today. This was just really valuable, and so grateful to have you in the community.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. And any more questions people might have, I'm big on LinkedIn, Allie Carty, and then my Instagram is Allie Carty Mortgage. I'll follow you back. If you direct message me, happy to answer any other questions, and I'll get some more information over to Kristen after the call today.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great
Bye,
day.
guys.